I came home from work and found my husband's note. Spend New Year's with your parents in the village. My mom and I went to a ski resort. When I opened the safe, all my money was gone. When those two came back, I had a surprise waiting for them. But before I begin, please like and subscribe to the channel. And we'd love to hear which part of the world are you joining us from. Let us know. Now let's dive into today's story. The house sat at the edge of Lake Hartwell, South Carolina, quiet except for the steady hum of the heater working overtime against the December cold. Allison Brewer pulled into the driveway just after 6 in the evening, her scrub still smelling faintly of antiseptic and dog fur. The sky had turned that particular shade of steel gray that promised snow, though snow rarely came this far south. She killed the engine and sat for a moment, watching her breath fog the windshield. 12 hours at the veterinary clinic, 3 emergency surgeries, 2 grieving families, 1 puppy saved. She was tired in a way that went deeper than physical exhaustion. Allison grabbed her purse from the passenger seat and stepped out into the cold. The wind off the lake carried the smell of wood smoke and something savory, chilly maybe, from the neighbor's place 2 houses down. She locked the car and walked up the front steps, her keys already in her hand. The door swung open easily. Too easily. Jack usually locked the deadbolt during the day. He worked from home most weeks, managing online marketing campaigns for a company based in Atlanta. He'd be at his desk in the spare bedroom, headphones on, arguing with someone about ad placements or click-through rates. But the house was silent. No keyboard clicks. No muffled voice on a conference call. Just the heater and the faint creak of the house settling. "Jack!" No answer. Allison stepped inside and closed the door behind her. She hung her keys on the hook by the entrance and shrugged out of her coat. The living room looked normal. The television was off. His laptop wasn't on the coffee table where he usually left it. She walked toward the kitchen, her shoes quiet on the hardwood floor. That's when she saw it. A folded piece of paper sat on the kitchen counter, held down by her spare set of house keys. The keys she kept in the junk drawer, the ones Jack never touched. Allison stopped walking. Her heart didn't race. Her hands didn't shake. Instead, something cold and certain settled in her stomach, the feeling you get when you already know bad news is coming, and all that's left is to hear it out loud. She picked up the note. Jack's handwriting. Rushed. Messy. Spending New Year's with Mom in Gatlinburg. You should stay with your parents. Don't worry about money. Allison read it once. Then again. For sentences. 23 words. And the last 4 made her jaw tighten. Don't worry about money. Jack had never written those words unless he'd already done something he knew she'd be furious about. Like the time he'd bought a new gaming console without mentioning it, or when he'd loaned his brother $2,000 and forgot to tell her until the credit card bill arrived. This time felt different. Allison set the note down carefully and walked to the back door. She let Murphy in, her 5-year-old golden retriever, who'd been napping on the porch. He wagged his tail and pressed his nose against her leg. "Hey, buddy," she said quietly, scratching behind his ears. "You hungry?" She filled his bowl with kibble and freshened his water. Murphy ate happily, oblivious. Allison washed her hands at the sink, dried them, folded the towel. Then she walked down the hallway toward the bedroom. The bedroom looked untouched. The bed was made. Jack's side table held his charging cable and a half-empty water glass. The closet door was open, and she could see his suitcase missing from the top shelf. So he'd packed, planned this. Allison knelt beside the bed and reached underneath. Her fingers found the cool metal edge of the safe, a small fireproof box she'd bought 3 years ago, before the wedding. She pulled it out and set it on the carpet. The combination lock stared back at her. She entered the code slowly. 4 digits. Her birthday month and day. The lock clicked. The door swung open. Empty. Completely empty. No envelopes. No cash. No, rubber-banded stacks of 20s and 50s she'd been saving for 5 years. Money she'd set aside from every paycheck, every overtime shift, every holiday bonus. Money that was supposed to be for emergencies, for a down payment on a bigger house, for the future they'd talked about building together. Gone. Allison sat back on her heels and stared at the empty safe. She didn't cry. She didn't scream. Instead, she pressed her palm flat against the carpet and focused on the texture. Rough, worn, familiar. She counted her breaths. In through the nose, out through the mouth. For seconds in, for seconds out. When the tightness in her chest loosened, she stood up and walked to the closet. She checked Jack's side. His winter coat was gone. His hiking boots. The expensive fleece jacket his mother had bought him last Christmas. He'd taken everything he needed for a trip. Allison pulled out her phone and opened her banking app. She navigated to their joint savings account, the one they both had access to, the one they used for bills and groceries. The balance looked normal. Then she checked her personal account, the one only she was supposed to have access to, the one connected to her debit card, the one she'd set up before they got married, back when she was still figuring out if she could trust him with money. The balance was lower, much lower, $12,000 for $100 lower. A single withdrawal, made yesterday afternoon at 3:47 p.m. Authorized transaction. No fraud alert. No flagged activity. Because it had been done with her PIN. Allison stared at the screen. She scrolled through the transaction history, looking for anything else. But there was only that one withdrawal. Clean. Simple. Efficient. He hadn't guessed her PIN. He'd watched her enter it. Maybe at the grocery store. Maybe at the gas station. Maybe a dozen times over the past year when she'd been too tired to care if he was looking over her shoulder. And he'd memorized it. Waited. Planned. Then he'd taken everything. Allison locked her phone and set it on the dresser. She walked to the kitchen and picked up the note again. Don't worry about money. She almost laughed. It came out as a short, bitter sound. Because of course she was going to worry. He'd just stolen over $12,000 from her. Money she'd worked for, saved for, protected. But that wasn't what made her angry. What made her angry was the assumption. The assumption that she wouldn't do anything about it. The assumption that she'd just accept it. Forgive him. Move on. The assumption that being his wife meant letting him take whatever he wanted. Allison thought about Jack's mother then. Donna Brewer. 58 years old, twice divorced, currently living in a condo in Asheville that Jack helped pay for. Donna, who'd said more than once at family dinners that a wife shouldn't keep secrets from her husband. That shared finances meant shared access. That Allison's habit of maintaining a separate savings account was old-fashioned and distrustful. Donna, who'd never apologized for the credit card debt that destroyed Jack's father, who'd bankrupted him with shopping trips and spa weekends and jewelry she never wore, who'd blamed the divorce on circumstances instead of her own spending. Donna, who was probably with Jack right now, in Gatlinburg, spending Allison's money on a hotel room and room service and whatever else she wanted. Allison set the note down. She wasn't surprised. Not really. Jack had always been weak when it came to his mother. He'd always chosen her side, always defended her, always made excuses, and Allison had let it slide because she'd thought marriage meant compromise. But this wasn't compromise. This was theft. Allison fed Murphy again and made herself a sandwich she didn't eat. She sat at the kitchen table and stared at the note until the words blurred together. Then she picked up her phone and called her mother. 3 rings. Allison? Everything okay? Her mother's voice was warm and slightly worried, the way it always was when Allison called after work hours. I'm fine, Allison said. Can I come see you and Dad tonight? A pause. Of course. What happened? I'll explain when I get there. Allison. I'm fine, Mom. I promise. I just need to talk to you both. Another pause. Longer this time. Drive safe. her mother said finally. "We'll be here." Allison ended the call and grabbed her coat. The drive to Greenville took just over 2 hours. The roads were empty and dark, lit only by streetlights and the occasional gas station. Allison drove with the radio off, her hands steady on the wheel. She didn't think about Jack. She didn't think about the money. Instead, she thought about the first time she'd met Donna. It had been at a restaurant in Spartanburg. Jack had been nervous, talking too fast, adjusting his collar. Donna had arrived 15 minutes late, wearing a designer coat Allison later learned was borrowed from a friend. "So you're the veterinarian," Donna had said, shaking Allison's hand. "Jack says you're very dedicated to your work." It had sounded like a compliment, but the way Donna's eyes had scanned Allison's outfit, plain sweater, jeans, minimal makeup, had made it clear what she really meant. "You're not impressive enough for my son." Allison had smiled and ordered water instead of wine. She'd let Jack do most of the talking. She'd been polite and quiet and exactly what she thought Donna wanted. And Donna had spent the entire dinner talking about Jack's ex-girlfriend, the one who'd gone to law school, the one who wore heels and worked at a firm in Charlotte, the one who'd left Jack because he couldn't keep a job for more than 8 months. Allison had found that out later, from Jack's brother, after the engagement. By then, it was too late to walk away without looking like the villain. She'd told herself it didn't matter, that Jack was different now, that he'd grown up. She'd been wrong. Her parents lived in a modest ranch-style house on the outskirts of Greenville. The front porch light was on when Allison pulled into the driveway. She killed the engine and sat for a moment, gathering herself. The front door opened before she reached the steps. Her father stood in the doorway, tall, gray-haired, wearing the same flannel shirt he'd owned for a decade. He didn't say anything, just stepped aside and let her in. Her mother was in the kitchen, boiling water for tea. She turned when Allison entered and opened her arms. Allison hugged her, breathed in the familiar smell of lavender lotion and fabric softener. "Sit," her mother said, pulling back. "I'll get you something warm." Allison sat at the kitchen table. Her father took the chair across from her and folded his hands. "Jack," he asked. Allison nodded. "He left. Took all my savings with him." Her mother's hand froze mid-pour. "What?" "He emptied my account," Allison said. Her voice was calm, steady. $12,000. Then he drove to Tennessee with his mother. Her father's expression didn't change. "How did he access your account?" "He used my PIN." "Did you give it to him?" "No." "Then it's not a family issue," her father said. "It's a legal one." Allison looked at him. His face was unreadable, but his tone was firm. Not angry, not shocked, just certain. Her mother set a mug of tea in front of her and sat down. "Have you called him?" "No." "Are you going to?" "No." Her mother glanced at her father, then back at Allison. "What are you going to do?" Allison wrapped her hands around the mug. The heat stung her palms, but she didn't pull away. "I'm going to file a police report." The kitchen went quiet. Her mother opened her mouth, then closed it. Her father leaned back in his chair. "You're sure?" he asked. "Yes." "He's your husband." "He's also a thief." Her father studied her for a long moment. Then he nodded. "Do you need a lawyer?" "Not yet. I need documentation first." "What kind?" "Bank statements. Proof the money was mine. Anything that shows he didn't have permission." Her father stood and walked to the small desk in the corner of the kitchen. He pulled out a notepad and a pen. "Write down everything," he said, setting them in front of her. "Every detail. Every time he asked about your savings. Every conversation. Every message. Everything." Allison took the pen. Her mother reached across the table and touched her hand. "Are you sure about this? Once you involve the police." "I'm sure. But he's family." "He stopped being family when he stole from me." Her mother's eyes filled with tears, but she didn't argue. She just squeezed Allison's hand and let go. Allison started writing. She stayed at her parents' house that night, slept in her old bedroom with the same quilt from high school, woke up before dawn and made coffee in the kitchen while her parents still slept. Then she drove home. The house felt different when she walked in. Colder, emptier. Murphy greeted her at the door, tail wagging. She knelt and let him lick her face. "Good boy," she whispered. "It's just us now." She fed him and let him out. Then she went to the bedroom and opened her laptop. She logged into her bank account and took screenshots of every transaction from the past 6 months. She downloaded her account statements as PDFs. She opened her email and searched for anything Jack had sent about money. There were 3 messages. One from 6 months ago, complaining that her savings account was basically his anyway, since they were married. One from 3 months ago, asking why she didn't just move everything into their joint account. One from 2 weeks ago, telling her she was being paranoid for keeping the safe locked. Allison saved them all. Then she went to the closet and found the receipt for the safe. She'd bought it online, shipped to the clinic, her name only on the order. She made copies of everything and put them in a folder. Then she got dressed, grabbed her keys, and drove to the police station. The Lake Hartwell Police Department was a small brick building off Highway 29, wedged between a hardware store and a diner. Allison had driven past it 100 times but never been inside. She parked in the visitor lot and sat for a moment, staring at the glass doors. This was the point of no return. Once she walked through those doors, once she made this official, there would be no taking it back. No pretending it didn't happen. No smoothing things over at family dinners. Jack would be arrested, charged, prosecuted. His mother would hate her. His brother would call her vindictive. His friends would say she overreacted. But none of them had worked 12-hour shifts to save that money. None of them had watched their bank account drain overnight. None of them had read that note. Don't worry about money. Allison opened the car door and stepped out. The station lobby was small and fluorescent lit, with plastic chairs along one wall and a reception desk behind thick glass. A woman in uniform sat at the desk, typing on a computer. Allison walked up and waited. The officer looked up. "Can I help you?" "I'd like to file a report," Allison said. "My husband stole money from me." The officer's expression didn't change. She reached for a clipboard. "Have a seat. Someone will be with you shortly." Allison sat in one of the plastic chairs and filled out the form. Name, address, phone number, date and time of incident. She handed it back. 20 minutes later, a detective called her name. He was in his 40s, with graying hair and tired eyes. He led her to a small office with a desk and 2 chairs. "I'm Detective Raymond," he said, gesturing for her to sit. "You're reporting a theft?" "Yes." "Walk me through it." Allison took a breath and started from the beginning. She told him about coming home from work, about the note, about the empty safe and the unauthorized withdrawal. She told him about Jack's message from months ago, admitting he thought the money was his. She told him about Donna and the trip to Gatlinburg. Detective Raymond listened without interrupting. He took notes on a yellow legal pad. When she finished, he leaned back in his chair. "How much was taken?" $12,400. "All from your personal account?" "Yes." "Does your husband have legal access to that account?" "No. It's in my name only. He used my PIN without permission." "Can you prove that?" Allison pulled out her folder. She handed him the bank statements, the screenshots, the emails, the safe receipt. He reviewed them carefully, his expression neutral. "You kept records," he said. "I'm careful about money." "Why?" "Because I grew up watching people lose everything when they weren't." He nodded. "Set the papers down. You understand this is a serious accusation. If we move forward, your husband could face felony charges." "I understand." Are you sure you want to do this? Yes. This isn't something you can undo. Once charges are filed. I know. Detective Raymond studied her. Most people in your situation try to work it out privately. Marriage counseling, mediation, something. Most people don't have their savings stolen. He almost smiled. Almost. Fair point. He picked up his pen. Where is your husband now? Gatlinburg, Tennessee. With his mother. Do you have an address? No, but I can find out. How? He used our credit card to book the hotel. I can check the statement. Do that. Email me the details. He slid a business card across the desk. In the meantime, I'm going to file this report. Given the amount and the fact that he left the state, we'll likely classify it as felony theft. Allison nodded. You should also know, he continued, that your husband will probably argue this was a misunderstanding, that he thought he had permission, that the money was marital property. The account is in my name only. The safe is in my name only. He used my PIN without asking. I believe you, but that's what he'll say. Then the evidence will prove otherwise. Detective Raymond looked at her for a long moment. Then he stood and extended his hand. I'll be in touch within 48 hours. Allison shook his hand. Thank you. She walked out of the station and back to her car. Her phone buzzed as she unlocked the door. A text from Jack. Hey, sorry I left without saying goodbye. Mom needed me. I'll be back in a few days. Love you. Allison stared at the screen. He didn't mention the money. Didn't apologize. Didn't explain. Just acted like nothing was wrong. She deleted the message without responding. That evening, Allison logged into their joint credit card account and scrolled through the recent charges. There it was, December 26th. A hotel booking in Gatlinburg. The Mountain View Lodge. 4 nights. $280. Paid with their credit card. Allison took a screenshot and emailed it to Detective Raymond. Then she called the hotel. Mountain View Lodge, how can I help you? Hi, Allison said, keeping her voice pleasant. I'm trying to reach a guest. Jack Brewer. He checked in yesterday. One moment. A pause. Keyboard clicks. Room 214. I'll transfer you. Thank you. The phone rang 3 times. Then Donna's voice. Hello. Allison ended the call. She didn't need to talk to them. She just needed confirmation. They were there. Together. Probably celebrating. Allison set her phone down and walked to the kitchen. She made dinner, pasta with marinara sauce, nothing fancy, and ate slowly at the table. Murphy sat at her feet, watching, hopefully. She gave him a piece of garlic bread and scratched his ears. It's okay, she said quietly. We're going to be okay. 2 days later, Detective Raymond called. We're moving forward, he said. I've coordinated with the Gatlinburg Police Department. They'll execute the arrest tomorrow morning. Allison's heart didn't race. Her hands didn't shake. Okay, she said. There's a chance he'll post bail quickly, depending on the judge. I understand. You should also know his mother is probably going to be upset. There's a good chance she'll contact you. I won't answer. Good. He paused. Are you sure you're ready for this? I've been ready since I found the empty safe. All right. I'll call you after the arrest. Thank you. Allison ended the call and sat on the couch. Murphy jumped up beside her and rested his head on her lap. She stroked his fur and stared at the wall. Tomorrow, Jack would be arrested, handcuffed, charged, processed, and she felt nothing but relief. The call came at 11 the next morning. It's done, Detective Raymond said. He was arrested outside the hotel. No resistance. His mother was present. Was the money recovered? Most of it. He'd spent about $2,000. The rest was in the hotel safe. What happens now? He'll be extradited back to South Carolina for arraignment. Should take a few days. Will I need to testify? Possibly. Depends on whether he pleads guilty or fights it. He'll fight it. You sound sure. I know him. He'll say it was a misunderstanding, that I'm overreacting. Then we'll let the evidence speak. Allison thanked him and ended the call. She sat in the silence of her living room, sunlight streaming through the windows. It was over, or at least the first part was. Her phone buzzed. A voicemail. She checked the number. Donna. Allison deleted it without listening. Then her phone buzzed again. A text from Jack's brother, Kyle. What the hell did you do? Jack's in jail. Mom is hysterical. Call me. Allison read it twice. Then she blocked his number. She wasn't going to explain herself. Wasn't going to justify her decision. Wasn't going to let them guilt her into feeling bad for protecting her own money. They could think whatever they wanted. She knew the truth. Over the next week, Allison received 17 phone calls from numbers she didn't recognize. She ignored them all. She went to work. She came home. She walked Murphy by the lake. Life continued quieter now. Then she received a letter from Jack's attorney, a request for a meeting, a suggestion that they resolve this amicably. Allison threw it in the trash. 3 days later, another letter, this one more formal, a proposed settlement. Jack would repay the money if she dropped the charges. Allison called Detective Raymond. They're trying to negotiate, she said. That's normal. Do you want to consider it? No. You could get your money back faster. I don't care. He needs to face consequences. All right. I'll let the prosecutor know. The arraignment was scheduled for mid-January. Allison didn't attend. She didn't need to. Her testimony would come later if necessary. But Detective Raymond called her afterward. He pleaded not guilty, he said. Trial's set for March. Of course he did. His lawyer's going to argue marital property, that he believed he had a right to access those funds. The account was in my name only. The safe was in my name only. He used my PIN without permission. I know, but they're going to try. Let them. Allison could hear the faint smile in his voice. You're remarkably calm about this. I'm tired of being angry. Now I'm just focused. Good. Stay that way. Act N 2. The trial took place on a cold morning in early March. The courthouse was an old stone building in downtown Anderson, with marble floors and high ceilings that echoed every footstep. Allison arrived early, wearing a navy blazer and slacks. She'd taken the day off work, brought her folder of documents, prepared herself for questions. Detective Raymond met her in the hallway outside the courtroom. Ready, he asked. Yes. His lawyer's going to try to paint you as controlling, as someone who kept secrets, someone who didn't trust her husband. I didn't trust him. Turns out I was right. He nodded. Just stick to the facts. Don't get emotional. Don't get defensive. I won't. They entered the courtroom. Jack was already seated at the defense table with his attorney, a middle-aged man in an expensive suit. Jack looked thinner, tired. He glanced at Allison as she walked in, but she didn't meet his eyes. Donna sat in the front row behind him, her arms crossed, her face tight with anger. Allison sat on the opposite side of the courtroom, alone. The judge entered. Everyone stood. The trial began. The prosecutor presented the evidence, methodically. Bank statements showing the unauthorized withdrawal. Screenshots of Jack's messages admitting he thought the money was basically his. The safe receipt proving it was Allison's property. Testimony from Detective Raymond explaining the investigation. Then it was the defense's turn. Jack's lawyer stood and adjusted his tie. Your Honor, this case has been blown entirely out of proportion. Mr. Brewer and Ms. Brewer are married. They share a home. They share a life. And yes, they share finances. He gestured toward Jack. My client made a mistake. He accessed funds he believed were marital property. He didn't steal. He didn't commit a crime. He took money from an account he believed he had every right to access. The judge looked unimpressed. The account was in Ms. Brewer's name only. With all due respect, Your Honor, marriage creates a legal partnership. Assets acquired during marriage are considered marital property in South Carolina. Assets, yes, but not individual accounts maintained separately. My client didn't know that. Ignorance of the law isn't a defense, counselor. Jack's lawyer shifted. He also believed he had permission. His wife never explicitly told him he couldn't access those funds. She locked them in a safe. The judge said dryly, "That seems fairly explicit." A ripple of quiet laughter went through the courtroom. Jack's lawyer cleared his throat. "Regardless, this is a domestic matter, a misunderstanding between spouses. It shouldn't have resulted in criminal charges." "Theft is theft," the judge said, "regardless of the relationship." The lawyer tried a different angle. "Ms. Brewer has been uncooperative. She refused mediation, refused settlement offers, refused to even speak to my client. This suggests vindictiveness, not justice." Allison's jaw tightened, but she didn't react. The judge leaned forward. "Or it suggests she wanted the law to handle it properly, which is her right." He glanced at the prosecutor. "Call your next witness." The prosecution calls Allison Brewer. Allison stood and walked to the witness stand. She was sworn in and sat down. The prosecutor approached. "Ms. Brewer, can you describe what happened on December 26th? Allison spoke clearly, calmly. She described coming home from work, finding the note, opening the safe, checking her bank account. "Did you give your husband permission to access those funds?" "No." "Did you ever tell him he could use your PIN?" "No." "How did he obtain it?" "He must have watched me enter it." "And the money in the safe, whose was it?" "Mine. I saved it over 5 years, before and during the marriage." "Did your husband contribute to those savings?" "No." The prosecutor nodded. "Thank you. No further questions." Jack's lawyer stood for cross-examination. "Ms. Brewer, you and Mr. Brewer are married, correct?" "Yes." "And you share a home?" "Yes." "You share bills?" "Expenses?" "We have a joint account for that." "But you also kept a separate account. Why?" "Because I wanted financial security." "You didn't trust your husband?" "I trusted myself." The lawyer frowned. "You kept secrets from him." "I kept my savings separate." "That's not a secret." "He didn't know about the safe." "He knew. He just didn't know the combination." "Because you didn't trust him." Allison met his eyes. "Because it was mine." The lawyer paused. "You refused every attempt to resolve this privately. Why?" "Because taking my money without permission isn't a private matter. It's theft." "You're willing to send your husband to jail over this." "I'm willing to hold him accountable." The lawyer stared at her. Then he shook his head. "No further questions." Allison stepped down. The judge reviewed the evidence in silence. The courtroom waited. Finally he spoke. "Mr. Brewer, you accessed funds you were not authorized to take. You used a PIN you obtained without permission. You removed money from a safe that was not yours. Then you left the state and spent a portion of those funds." Jack opened his mouth. His lawyer touched his arm. The judge continued. "Your defense argues this was a misunderstanding, that you believed the money was marital property, but the evidence shows otherwise. The account was in your wife's name only. The safe was purchased by her. You had no legal right to access either." He set his papers down. "This isn't a civil matter. This is theft. And the fact that the victim is your wife doesn't change that." Donna stood up in the gallery. "This is ridiculous. He's her husband." The judge's gaze shifted. "Ma'am, sit down." or I'll have you removed." Donna sat, her face red. The judge turned back to Jack. "You are found guilty of felony theft. Sentencing will be scheduled for next month. Until then, you're remanded to custody." Jack's face went pale. "Your Honor, please." "Court is adjourned." The gavel came down. Donna burst into tears. Jack's lawyer tried to calm him. Officers moved in to escort Jack out. Allison stood and walked out of the courtroom. She didn't look back. Sentencing came 4 weeks later. Jack was given 18 months in county jail with credit for time served. He was also ordered to repay every dollar plus court costs. His lawyer filed an appeal. It was denied. Allison received a check from the court 3 months later. $12,400. Exactly what had been taken. She deposited it into her account and went back to work. Spring turned to summer. The days grew longer and warmer. Lake Hartwell filled with boats and laughter. Allison kept her routines. Work. Home. Murphy. The lake. She received 1 letter from Jack, postmarked from the county jail. She set it on the counter and stared at it for a full day. Then she threw it away unopened. She didn't care what he had to say. Didn't care if he was sorry. Didn't care if he'd learned his lesson. Some things didn't deserve forgiveness. Some people didn't deserve second chances. One evening in July, Allison sat on the back porch with a glass of iced tea. Murphy lay at her feet, panting in the heat. The lake stretched out before her, calm and glassy in the fading light. Her phone buzzed. A text from her mother. "How are you doing?" Allison smiled and typed back, "I'm good. Really good." Her mother replied immediately, "I'm proud of you." Allison set her phone down and looked out at the water. She'd lost a marriage, lost a family, lost the future she thought she'd have. But she'd kept something more important. She'd kept her dignity, her strength, her sense of self. She'd refused to be a victim, refused to accept betrayal as something she had to endure. And in doing that, she'd gained something she hadn't expected. Peace. The kind of peace that came from knowing you'd done the right thing, even when it was hard, even when it cost you everything. Allison took a sip of tea and watched the sun set over the lake. Murphy shifted beside her, his tail thumping once against the wood. "We're okay," she said quietly. "We're going to be just fine." And for the first time in months, she believed it completely.